Launch starts off with a great series of YouTube videos for real beginners. They cover the very basics really quickly, which I think helps in that the early phases of your learning curve. Um, if you're just doing kind of standard implementation, kind of basic to moderate complexity, you can pretty much do everything without any sort of custom code or really technical chops. There are some caveats to that, assuming you have a data layer on the page. Once the data is there, you can pick it up, you can move it around, you can concatenate and hinge on a bunch of events without having to write any code. You can then manipulate that data, send it off to various tools, again, without any code. So getting to that intermediate to moderate, I think is quite quick, quite easy. I do have to concede probably going from intermediate to expert can be quite the challenge. When you do get into the coding side, there's things to be learned there, but overall a good curve for most users.
The thing with Tealium is typically when you go through an implementation with them, you're paired with an implementation engineer, as well as you get some project management support. So in a lot of ways, there's an onboarding there, which really lessens that initial learning curve. But in addition to that, they provide quite a few resources that really make it easy to onboard to the tool. This includes, they do conferences as well as learning sessions, formerly I think referred to as Tealium University, as well as they've internalized their entire learning portal and all of their support resources. So instead of having to go to Stack Overflow or Google, they've gone through and had a series of their engineers populate several documents and sort of forum posts, if you will, on exactly how to configure a tag. And a lot of it is specific to the vendor. So it's not just here's how you configure any tag, here's this specific tag and exactly how you configure it. And with the way that they've constructed their tag library, typically you're able to take whatever vendor information you have that you're trying to set up a tag for and directly plug it into those tags without any code interaction. So it's a really, really easy learning curve.
All right. And I think GTM is probably the easiest of all tag managers to learn. It's just so user friendly and intuitive. I think Google has that formula nailed. And on top of that, there's just so many resources out there that you can just Google and learn. I remember my first time going into GTM. It was a little bit weird. I was an Ensighten guy actually, and then a DTM guy. And so with GTM, you're kind of forced to adopt like this data-driven data layer, which is like this big buzzword nowadays, right? And it just makes everything a lot more user-friendly, I think, and more intuitive. They have this really nice, which I think is my favorite feature, the little console that appears when you're previewing something. Not only did that help me learn about how to better tag or what were my tags doing in any given event, I learned about HTML through GTM. So I think GTM is probably the easiest and more user-friendly out of all of them. And I think the learning curve is not that big. So Ensighten was my first tag manager. I have to say, maybe it was a reflection of being my first. I was overwhelmed. For a moment there, I thought I freaked out. I thought I needed to learn how to code. I'm not a coder. And so I remember my consultant, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, am I gonna have to learn how to do data definitions? And he assured me no, so the consultant was really good in that way. I think similar to Tealium, you have a really good onboarding process. I'll give him that. And in addition to that, the training videos were really good. You know, I think that we have, you know, they had this Ensighten manage tool, right? Which is what you end up using. And they go really deep into all the different details about it. I think they're a little bit dated. Well, they are dated, but I think they may have updated them recently. I didn't check actually, but if they have, that's great. But if they haven't, then I think these videos are from like 2010. But overall, I ended up learning it, but it did take a while, I must say. But yeah, that's what I would say.